The Monday night game, Chargers at the Saints. The sign opened up Saints minus 7.5. It's still 7.5. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, so I don't like this game that much. Right now, I'm leaning on the Chargers plus 7.5, just because I think we're getting the key numbers of 6 and 7 at that point. And my thought process is that the Saints, I know we just talked about teams going into a bye, and teams often play well going into their bye, but I think the Saints might be in a little bit of a different boat because they have so many injuries. If I was Sean Payton in this circumstance, I might say, like, hey, Michael Thomas, like, if you're not 100%, like, we're just going to sit you in this game and just make sure that you're healthy enough for our next game. And then, they'll be confident enough that they can rack up enough wins to get in the postseason no matter what. But they have that with Thomas, Jared Cook, two corners, Marshawn Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins. So I think the Saints know well enough not to put their guys at risk of suffering another injury. We saw the Packers do it last week with Devontae Adams. So I'm just a little bit worried about the Saints possibly allowing a backdoor cover. I still think they win, but if they have, we saw Matthew Stafford at the beginning of the game last week just tear up the Saints defense before inexplicably struggling in the middle portion and then coming back from behind later in the game. So I think if the Chargers get out to a quick start, the Saints are playing catch up, then I don't think they cover this. So I'm going to be on the Chargers right now. I'm not super into this one. And, if there's injuries that go away for the Saints, then I'll be thinking a little differently. And I did see that note about Chris Harris being gone and how the Chargers pass defense isn't as good anymore. Yeah, that's definitely fair and something to keep in mind. But I think if both teams have a bad pass defense, if the Saints have their corners out, so could be a closer game than people think.
It's a good thought about how they're going into a bye and they might rest their players because of that. That's something I didn't consider. So there are just so many question marks with injuries in this game, on all sides of the ball. Michael Thomas, you mentioned Michael Thomas. There are two corners, Marshawn Lattimore, Janoris Jenkins. Those are all important injuries. Also, Ryan Ramczyk got injured last week. I think it was a concussion against the Lions. And when Ryan Ramczyk went out of the game, that's when the Saints stopped scoring. The Saints didn't even punt the ball until the end of the third quarter. That's how on fire they were. And then when Ryan Ramczyk got injured, that's when they stopped. So he's so important. And the Chargers, they still have Joey Bosa. Granted, they're missing Melvin Ingram, but they can still get to the quarterback. So having Ramczyk is important. For the Chargers, they were missing 3 offensive linemen last week, and that's why I like the Buccaneers so much. I was kind of surprised that the Chargers did so well offensively with missing 3 starting offensive linemen. But I don't think that's a formula you can keep using and winning with, having all those missing blockers. So if they're down 3 offensive linemen again against a good Saints front that has, Sheldon Rankins, Cameron Jordan, and we'll see if Marcus Davenport comes back, but that's another one. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but the Saints can definitely get a lot of pressure on Herbert and really force him into some turnovers. So there are just so many question marks here. It's so difficult to make a prediction right now about this game. And, the fact that we won't even have a good injury report until Friday, it's going to be a while until we even know where we're supposed to be heading in this game. So you have the Chargers. I'm going to have the Saints right now, just pencil them in, but this could be radically different. I have Saints for no units. This could end up being Saints for a few units. It could also be Chargers for a few units. Really depends on what the injury report looks like.
Yeah, this is definitely a game that's going to be impacted by the injury report. Because like I said, if the Saints bring back a bunch of those guys, then I'll probably be on them. If both teams are without guys, I probably won't bet this game at all. And if the Chargers bring back a ton of guys, I'll bet them. So yeah, Monday, this is definitely one I'm going to revisit on the weekend, and probably I'll make my final decision Monday, because I imagine there will be some game time calls in this one. That inactives list, I don't know if there's going to be a more important one than this one this week.
Yeah, I feel like there are going to be 10 guys we're waiting on. It's ridiculous. Last question. Who is the next coach to get canned, Dan Quinn or Matt Patricia? Notice that Adam Gase is not on this list. I feel like they're going to fire Gase at the end of the year. The fact that they didn't fire him after that Denver game just tells me that they're just going to wait. There's no reason to fire him now that they didn't. So who do you think is the next coach to be fired?
First of all, I agree. If they didn't fire Gase after a Thursday night game, they won't fire him until the end of the year. I would say Dan Quinn, solely because his seat was red hot last year and he saved it. I think if you get into a scenario where the Falcons keep losing and then get to their bye, I think Arthur Blank might just be like, look, we're going to go a different direction for sure. Like, let's just not have you around worrying about your job anymore. Like, we don't want to end up in the same situation. So I think that'll be the case. I think Detroit still likes Matt Patricia. I think they'll hang on to him till the end of the year. But I think that win against the Cardinals and, a solid showing on offense against the Saints will keep him alive for sure.
I agree. I think it's going to be Quinn because he was in the hot seat last year and then he saved his job. But like now that's all thrown out the window. Like who cares if he finished well? Like he started off 0-4 with those two. He keeps blowing big leads. Like it's inexcusable. So I think when the bye week comes around, not sure when that is, but when the bye week comes around, I think Dan Quinn's going to be fired. Matt Patricia should be fired. I don't know why he's running Adrian Peterson 3-yard gains when he's down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. It just makes no sense. It's so frustrating. But yeah, I think it's gonna be Quinn. All right, so survivor pick. Honestly, I don't know who we still have left alive because we were both eliminated week 1. So kind of just giving you the best survivor picks. I think obviously the Chiefs and the Ravens are 2 teams you need to look at. They're both, I think they're both great plays. If you have them available, they should both win. If you want to be a little contrarian, I think Seattle is a nice play against the Vikings. I feel like most people are either going to pick the Chiefs or the Ravens. But crazy things happen. If there's an injury and one of those teams loses, you're going to be happy that you pick Seattle. So I think Seattle's a great play as well.
Yeah, and I would say the Cardinals against the Jets is a good pick because I don't think the Jets have a chance in that game. So if I was still alive, I would have them be my pick in all likelihood. But I think the Chiefs and Ravens are good as well. I'd consider the Rams against Washington, but just because that might be one of the last games you look at from the Rams that's like, oh yeah, they're going to or they should win this game. But I could understand avoiding that as well. But I think any of those games is a good one.
Yeah, I remember I had the Rams last week against the Giants, and it's ridiculous that we're sweating that one out.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy. All right, so that's it for this week. Please subscribe and hit the like button, notification bell, like all that stuff would be amazing. Jacob, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Camenker. I'm always talking about football and retweeting stuff on there. You can also follow Sporting News Fantasy on Twitter at SN_fantasy, or you can just go to my account. I retweet them all the time. Trying to retweet or tweet out a bunch of our fantasy articles from there and just big highlights from the games throughout the week. So if you just want a one-stop place for anything fantasy, it'll be right there and on sportingnews.com. So yeah, please check those out.
Awesome. I'm at walterfootball.com. Lots of updates throughout the week, as usual. I always say this Saturday is the big update because we get the Friday injury report. So check back Saturday because there are always major changes. So that'll probably be the case once again this week. Updated 2021 NFL mock draft on Wednesday morning, which I'll be working on after dinner tonight. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out. Charlie updated his 2022 NFL mock draft. If you're wondering who's going to come out next, not this April, coming up with the next one. So yeah, tons of content as usual, fantasy rankings, stuff like that. So yeah, check us out at walterfootball.com. Otherwise, I'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you then.